For the last 50 years, politics has become nothing but a battlefield, and we the people are over it. It's time to restore our republic. Did you know that there are patriots who are suing the political elites on behalf of the American people? We have started a movement called M90USA, and to hear our story, tune in to the No, It's About the Republic show. Find out about our movement and how you can get involved to help retake our great republic.
Hey everybody, it's Steve, and
I'm John.
welcome to the second episode of the No, It's About the Republic show. And today we have in our studio with us special guest, Paul Davis. Say hi, Doc. Hey, say Paul.
Hi.
Wow, man of many words.
You'd be surprised.
Anyway,
Actually, you wouldn't.
this is the second podcast. This is the first podcast we're going to be doing actually in format, and we'll talk about format a little bit. We're going to be talking about some news stories here in a few minutes, and then we're going to be asking Paul some questions, and then we're going to have some other fun games. So,
Sounds good.
I think you won the
You
toss.
want me
Yeah,
to
you
kick
won the
this
toss.
off? Okay.
You won the
All
toss.
right.
Go for it.
One of the stories that came out this week is that the Wisconsin Republicans have asked the mayor to quit over an election report that basically says that the mayor was given 4 keys to the. Was given 4 keys to allow them to go in and to the DNC operations and cure ballots before Election Day. This is a pretty serious problem, and the reason that we brought this story up is because it also ties into Facebook co-founder Mark Zuckerberg, who provided the funds and the resources to make things like this happen, not just in Wisconsin, but all over the country. So,
Yeah, that's bringing. That's the Zuckerberg Chan Foundation. Zuckerberg is a defendant in the lawsuit, isn't he, Paul?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, cool. So there's a tie-in from there's a tie-in from Zuckerberg Chan for like $1.6 million
Right.
to Milwaukee to the mayor's office.
Exactly. Which
And the
is,
mayor gave him
a lot
4
of people are
keys.
asking why is Zuckerberg named in this suit? Well, now you know. These kinds of things it didn't just happen in Wisconsin. His money went all over the place.
Yeah, you can't cure ballots before the election day starts. That's a no-no,
no-no.
right?
That is a no-no, I
Big
would
no.
say.
We're gonna get into the second story here real quick. We're gonna knock out some of this news stuff really quick because we're really excited to have Paul in the studio. Most of you don't know Paul is a lawyer. Obviously, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. But Black Lives Matter.
Yes, they do.
Black Lives Matters. They do matter, but the organization raised $90 million last year, and
Put it in their pockets.
yeah, they did. Fox News actually came out with an article talking about they went to Chicago, they went to Ferguson, they went to a few other cities, and they interviewed community activists in those areas. And there's one that was really interesting. There's a project in Chicago called Help Others Obtain Dignity. And it's a really great story, people to read. We're gonna try to put a link up on our website. But talks about how this, I'll read a quote from this. The author talked to New Beginnings Church pastor Corey Brooks, and he joked around that he thought Black Lives Matter would have more support in the neighborhood, and Pastor Brooks just smiled and said, just smiled. And the reporter asked, the not-for-profit community center project called Hood had received any of the $90 million from Black Lives Matter had raised since the death of George Floyd. And Pastor Brooks said, with a drawn-out, no, which I thought was really kind of crazy. That
It's nuts.
If you're having a riot and stuff, yeah, they held a riot, in those communities. And this article goes on and talks about Ferguson and all these other cities that the Black Lives Matter came in and make a political statement and destroyed the cities, private businesses, local communities, and the black community. And then they gave nothing back to fix any of the damage. And I'm completely against that here in the M90 movement. That's one thing we were talking about is the M90 movement. It was about accountability. Why isn't M90? Why isn't Black Lives Matter writing a check for $5, $6, $10 million as a grant?
Yeah.
Pastor Brooks says he needs $10 million to build a community center, and he can't get it. BLM's sitting on $90 million. Why aren't you giving money to Pastor Brooks, who's saving people's lives in the black community that you destroyed? That's a talking
Why are
point.
they not giving the money to the community to rebuild the stores that were burned down,
Where
and
is
to, and,
that
to,
money?
and to take care of the people that were that have hospital bills because of the injuries they sustained?
And that's something we need to be talking about as an accountability movement, talking about these things. It's like, okay, do Black Lives Matter? Yes, my position is every life matters, regardless of skin color. But let's not be racist there, because I'm going to time racist now because I'm saying what I'm saying. But the fact is, if you're talking about a community and you're actively doing things to destroy it, and you've got checkbook, you should be writing checks to fix what you broke. You know, that's the way my grandmother raised us. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. You break it, you bought it.
That's about right.
Go for it,
All
man.
right, the next thing up is the gas price surge. I don't understand why this always seems to happen when the different political elites get in control. All of a sudden, gas prices go through the ceiling for no apparent reason other than they say, oh, supply and demand. Last time I checked, the supply was enormous because of the lockdowns. Nobody's been driving at all, so gas should be super cheap right now. It doesn't make any sense why it would, before the lockdowns are over, all of a sudden there's a huge demand. It doesn't make any sense. The experts are saying that the gas price spike is mostly driven by demand recovering faster than the winter storm squeezed supply. The winter storm that lasted all of 3 days in Texas and caused all kinds of havoc, but really didn't shut us down for more than 3 days. So I don't. How does supply go up when people aren't driving?
When you have pipelines, supply doesn't go down.
Well, and we had pipelines that were being developed to transfer the fuel from the refineries to the to the people, and then the current administration comes in and shuts those down. So now we have to transport it by rail and truck, which is infinitely more expensive and more detrimental to the environment than a pipeline. And all of a sudden prices are going up because you got to pay truck drivers, you got to take care of the train, the rail. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, what doesn't make sense is Exxon Pipeline was a raw crude pipeline that never got finished, so it should not have affected supply and demand in any real tangible way other than what the market makers wanted to do.
Well, shutting down the refineries is what screwed up the supply.
Well, it's what caused the supply of gasoline. Yes, you're right.
Well, you can't have gas without oil.
Well, that's true.
Well, I mean, beans, but I mean that's a whole other.
If you go to the M90 website, if you go to the M90USA.com website, you'll see expert witness testimony where we're talking about terror oil. The cost, the artificial cost, and the inflation of oil will get to the point where it's creating extra profits that state actors will then get into terrorism.
I thought it was just like really scary oil.
Well, it is scary oil too, but
Okay.
no, terror oil is, when you think about it, it's an interesting theory, and people need to be talking about that more, about rampant speculation and where that profit actually goes by state nefarious actors.
Right, and then you run into the importing issue, where we were completely energy independent. We didn't need anything from anybody else. We still don't, except for the fact that somebody somewhere is cutting off that supply line and turning it over to our enemies. So that we have to buy.
Illy Joe, illegitimate Joe.
Yeah, Illy Joe. Yeah.
Illy Joe.
Yep.
Last story we'll be talking about, which Paul will want to be talking about more later, is this week's Supreme Court decision about free speech. And Epic Times did a great article about it. You guys can read. But in the end of it, it's basically a college student sued the university because he was wanting to talk about God and Jesus in a free speech zone that the college had set up. I'm sorry, I thought we had a free speech country, but the university had.
I'm pretty sure the whole country is a free speech
The
zone.
Gwinnett College set up a free speech zone so you could talk about anything you wanted to, and then they changed the policy on him when he started talking about Jesus and God and that end of it. And he literally took the lawsuit all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I love this kid for this. He took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and what came out was brilliant. And I'm going to paraphrase it. Paul, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. But basically, the Supreme Court said when there's a registered violation of a constitutional right, the party, meaning the individual or the institution that violated that right, will be held accountable and will pay. And it's interesting because what had happened strategically in litigation, what's been happening is when somebody truncates somebody's constitutional rights, free speech, so on and so forth, they wait till they get to trial, and right before they get to trial or they're in trial, they change the policy so they don't have standing because they're not injured anymore. And the Supreme Court said, no, you injured them, you're going to pay. And that's beautiful because, Paul and I know, Paul knows where my head's going in this conversation about the lawsuit and everything else about this. And that is no better segue than to get into, hi, Paul.
Hi again.
Welcome to the show. Glad
Thank
you could make it.
I am thrilled to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you.
Paul, tell us about yourself and your career.
Well, let's see. I went to University of Texas School of Law. Graduated in 2011. And, I never saw myself being a lawyer I guess that's not entirely true. My favorite show when I was a kid was Perry Mason, and I wanted to be a lawyer when I was a kid, but I have several uncles who are lawyers, and apparently this one in particular was pretty miserable, and I remember having a conversation. He's like, "What do you want to be, Paul?" I was like, "I want to be a lawyer." He's like, "Oh, no, don't do that. Oh, it's miserable. Do not be a lawyer." And I was like, "Oh, okay. All right, well." So then, skipping ahead, I ended up becoming a lawyer, and I went to work after, graduated from UT in UT Austin, 2011, went to work for Andrews Kurth in Houston, which is a large law firm, international law firm with I think they had about 600 lawyers at the time. And I very soon found out why my uncle gave me that advice, because practicing law in a large law firm is quite miserable. You have ridiculous demands on how many hours you have to bill to clients, and quite frankly, I just think it's a broken system because it motivates you really the whole system's set up to kind of encourage people almost to lie about their hours. And that was hard for someone like me because I'm a very honest person, and it's nearly impossible for someone like me. Sorry, what happened?
Wait, now, you telling me you're an honest lawyer?
No, it's like it's a rarity. I mean, it's like a dinosaur, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. So it's just difficult when you have to keep track of your time, and you're constantly being pressured to bill more time, and it's a hard life,
Well, especially when you're dealing with people that can't necessarily afford to pay the extra hours or whatever.
Exactly. I mean, and the billing rates are insane. I mean, when I was when I was a fifth year, I think my billing rate was almost $500 an hour. And I mean, no lawyer's worth $500 an hour. I was working for partners that were billing $1,000 an hour. I mean, it's just insane. Yeah. So
You heard him just say that. No attorney's worth $500 an hour.
I really believe that.
I think it depends on what the attorney's fighting for.
Yeah, I mean, in this lawsuit, based on what I'm going through, maybe I'm worth $500 an hour, but for what I have to put up with, but I think it's probably pretty rare. And I started off in bankruptcy practice, so I did that for my first 2.5 years. It's a very complex practice of law. I mean, it is not for the faint of heart. The bankruptcy code is pretty arcane. But the good thing is we were a small practice, so immediately I was in front of federal judges. I mean, I think my first year I was actually in front of federal judges in court speaking and getting used to that. And then my second year, I actually handled a Ponzi scheme case pretty much all by myself. I mean, the partner gave it to me, and
was that an income tax thing?
It was no. It was.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. I had a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where did when you were in school? How where did you finish up when you graduated as far as your class was concerned?
I think I was in the top third somewhere.
Top
UT
third.
didn't really do hard, rankings.
Okay.
But yeah, I was in the top third somewhere.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So you did better than our current commander-in-chief.
Oh yeah. Is he the commander-in-chief though?
No, no, he's illegitimate, so therefore he's not even the commander
I
in chief.
just said current.
Right,
No,
right,
no,
right.
no, no, no,
Whatever
no,
everybody
no,
thinks.
The
no,
man
no,
who
sorry.
lives at
The-
1600.
the-
Well, actually, he
the
didn't even
resident-
live at
the
1600
resident
Pennsylvania
chief.
Avenue. Apparently,
Yeah.
he lives in what is it, Delaware?
Delaware.
That's what Jim Pisaki says.
Well, what's really funny is the dog. Evidently, one of his dogs bit somebody in the White
Yeah,
House, and they had
yeah.
to send the dogs back to Delaware.
Yeah.
So Joe's once again driving back for the Delaware. What you got a question for Paul?
No, I was just wondering. I want to make sure that we're setting up the people's understanding of who Paul is, and he's not just some schlep that came in off the street and decided to sue somebody.
It's only partly true.
Well, wait a second. Wait a second here. I have a question. I should have asked you first.
Okay, go ahead.
Is this a Trump lawsuit?
This is not a Trump lawsuit. If I have to tell that to one more person, particularly, it's not a lawsuit. It's not only not a Trump lawsuit, it's not a lawsuit to reinstall Trump, which the media cannot seem to comprehend. It's unbelievable.
Asking you a question again. Is this a Trump lawsuit?
It's not a Trump lawsuit.
One more time. Is it a Trump lawsuit?
It is not a Trump lawsuit.
We're
I got-
looking
I
here
got
for
a
the question.
I got a question.
No.
Is this a Trump lawsuit?
No. No.
There you go.
Well, and people, the reason we're making fun of this is almost every article out there just can't seem to wrap their brain around that concept. So, we're trying to just pound this home that this is not what this is about, not even remotely.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I had an interview with a Washington Post journalist, I guess you could call her, and she was nice, for a left-wing journalist. But she's still, I mean, after all this time and after I've told the media what seems like 1,000 times and what I've said, I've said it throughout the lawsuit, this is not a Trump lawsuit. It's not a lawsuit to reinstall Trump. She gives me a quote. Hey, can I use this quote? Is this accurate? And it literally said the lawsuit is to reinstall Trump. I was like, no, that's not accurate. Good Lord. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Yeah, you're suffering from non-existent syndrome.
my
you say things and
God.
people just don't hear you. Yeah.
They think
Yeah.
I'm the idiot, and it's like they cannot get simple concepts through their heads. It's
Yeah.
so weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Um,
Did you want me to finish my background, though? Kind of just, I'll go quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quickly, please.
So, yeah, I went, Started off in bankruptcy law. I have trouble with going quickly, don't I, sometimes? Third year, I changed to, I didn't really like bankruptcy law. I thought it was kind of boring. And so I changed to employment law. And because, I'd see them give the employment law presentation every month. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Man, sexual harassment? Those are like interesting issues. And it just always seems like they have the craziest fact patterns in employment law. So got into employment law, and yeah, it was a lot more interesting. I liked it because it is a federal practice. I do like federal court. I think it's things are more well organized in federal court. The rules are more clear, so I just like it. And then I did that for the next 2.5 to about 3 more years, practicing with Andrews Kurth in the employment law section. I also did a fair amount of just commercial law, just contract disputes, things like that. And then got really tired of big firm practice and just wasn't even sure I wanted to be a lawyer at that point because it's just such a toxic, it can be such a toxic environment. So I took a year off, kind of just explored other options. I mean, I even considered going to medical school. I actually got a job at Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, just doing admin work, getting to know doctors. I was in the pediatrics department, actually neonatology to be more specific, so the Nicu. And it was really interesting. I just got to a point where I just thought, man, I've already gone through law school. I've put all this work and effort in, and I just can't see myself starting over, going all the way through medical school. It's such a long road. So, and then right at that time, Hurricane Harvey hit. I literally was homeless. I didn't have a place to live. Our neighborhood had flooded. And so I called my dad, and he lives in Dallas, and it's just like, hey, I don't have a place to go. Can I just stay with you and kind of figure my life out? And so I just started applying to law firms again, and pretty quickly got in with a small firm in McKinney known as Saunders, Walsh & Beard, and they're just really, really great people. And I kind of got to a point where I was started to enjoy practicing law, actually. They would let me handle, it was mostly state court cases. We did have a few federal cases, but I was managing these cases. I was in front of judges. In fact, I had a pretty big, very complicated receivership case involving a business. It was very complicated. I was going up against a lawyer who's way more experienced than me, went to Harvard, and I got a great settlement. And that gave me tons of confidence. And my client thought I was a rock star, and it was just a huge shot in the arm. And then I made it to, got it. I went to Clark Hill from there, another big national law firm, went back into employment law. I was there for almost 2 years, got promoted to senior attorney. I was kind of just one little step away from becoming partner, and just had to get my business up a little bit. And then Goosehead offered me the job over there. And it was really exciting because it was not only an in-house counsel job, but they said primarily I was directing the human resources department, which I thought was really exciting.
Yeah.
So, it was a great change for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
So about a decade in federal practice.
Mostly practicing federal court and some state court, and then.
And you mentioned that you went into the Nicu, and it just seems to me that you have a heart for helping people. That you're not out there to just rake in money. You're out there to actually do something and have an effect and leave a legacy.
Absolutely. I mean, how many people would go from, making, the big firm salary, which at that time as a fifth year, I was making roughly $250,000 a year, to go into making $20 an hour working at Texas Children's. And it's not like I had a huge amount of savings. I used that mostly to pay off my law school loans.
Yeah. Having gone through a premature, my daughter was born prematurely, and I spent a lot of time in the NICU going back and forth and, doing what we had to do to get her to thrive. And we had a very unique situation. Just God was all over it. There were just miracle after miracle happening with her. So we had a unique situation because I saw some other people that were in there having a real bad time. And that to be in that environment all the time, that's got to take it out of you. Even especially if you're not working as one of the high-paid nurses or doctors or somebody that's
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Fortunately, I was mostly, I did get to go into the NICU quite a bit, but I was mostly doing kind of office work and shadowing the doctors and stuff. And actually, the main doctor I worked for, she was head of the mother-baby unit, and so that was kind of fun because we would go talk to all the parents with newborns, and it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's a civil rights lawsuit.
Yes, it is a civil rights lawsuit.
So why is it a civil rights lawsuit?
Well, because when people's constitutional rights are violated, those are civil rights that you have as a civilian, and that's why it's a civil rights lawsuit. It's a violation of constitutional rights.
Okay. And, when we start talking about this, there's all kinds of people's negativity and skepticism and all this other stuff because, Sidney Powell's, all her lawsuits got dismissed and all this. And hit the public with it. The evidence that was placed in front of the other courts was never reviewed, correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. In fact, there was a great article that came out today by the Federalist, and it's about this very issue, how these courts went to really, quite frankly, ridiculous lengths to avoid having to make a ruling on the evidence and avoid ruling on the merits. Twisting word, like I read the thing that stuck out to me the most about the article was, I can't remember exactly which court it was, but they interpreted the word shall in a law to say, well, that doesn't really mean they have to do it. It's like,
wait a second. That shall is absolute in law. It's you have to, or you must.
It's literally the most commonly used term to say you have to do this, and they say, oh, well, that doesn't really mean you have to.
Well,
do it.
Buddhism at its greatest.
Oh my gosh, it was just all sorts of verbal gymnastics to avoid.
So the evidence, none of the evidence was reviewed in what we call the Trump cases.
Yeah, well, when I say the evidence wasn't reviewed, because I've gone toe to toe, I've gone round and round with several reporters on this, and they just don't seem to get the simple concept that they have this mantra that's just, well, there was no widespread election fraud because, well, of course, first there was no election fraud, then it's no widespread election fraud, and now it's
global warming.
There's no widespread election fraud because all the courts said there wasn't. I'm like, oh, really? All the courts said there wasn't. Well, did they look at the evidence? Oh, yeah, they ruled on the evidence. Did they? What did they do? Well, they looked at the evidence. Well, okay, well, that means when you looking at the evidence, the way we determine evidence in the law is by having an evidentiary hearing. You have to put on a witness, have them questioned on direct testimony, and have somebody cross-examine them. That's
Under
how
oath.
we under oath.
Yeah.
And we look at their documents. They testify to those. That did not happen.
Can you
Ever.
can you repeat that? That did not
That
happen.
did not
That did not happen. So if you're out there, you're spreading it. If you're the trolls, if you're out there trolling, and we talk about you guys in a little bit. If you're out there trolling, no widespread election fraud. No, there was no evidence you're hearing. There was no proof to your statement. So shut up. Okay, shut up. You're part of the problem. Now this show is about the Republic show. It's about the Republic. It's not about your ideology. It's not about your agenda. The fact is the constant. Paul, sound off on this one. The Constitution was violated, correct?
The Constitution was absolutely violated.
On how many levels?
Oh, I mean, it's you can't even comprehend it. All 50 states violated federal election laws in pervasive and a severe and pervasive manner.
And what evidence do we have of this?
Well, it's all public is the beauty of it. So it's not because
So in other words, I can just go look it up, right?
you can go look it up.
I don't need to wait for you to show it to me.
Actually, you can go to the website and you can start reading. You can start reading the complaints, and you can read these other documents. You can read the expert witness testimony, and guys, we're going to say this again. M90USA.com. M90USA.com. Go there. Subscribe. Subscribe to the email
M is
list.
in middle.
Yeah. Subscribe. Get involved. If you do not like what you're hearing, get off your butt. Still subscribe. Contribute to be part of the solution. Okay, if you don't like what you're hearing, one side or the other, if you don't like it, still contribute. Because the fact is, we're going to get to the truth of this. So we're going to find exactly one day or the other, not happenstance, on hearsay, fact. Did fraud occur? Yes. Did this other stuff? Yes. Did this other stuff? Yes. So everybody's going to know, and we're going to go, hey, we found out the truth.
That's right.
The truth is set you free. And that is the point we're after right here. Correct, Paul? We're after
That
the
is
truth.
correct. Yeah, we are
Okay.
after the truth.
So,
Can I say the famous line from?
Sure.
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
okay, hitting this by the facts, as you and I talk about this often. One, Constitution is violated. Two, federal law is violated. Yes.
Well, the Constitution was violated because federal law, which is preemptive over the state law, was violated.
Okay,
be
to play the
accurate.
keep it simple, stupid game,
Right.
because people, the trolls only understand yes and no's.
Right.
So, yes, federal law was violated.
Yes.
Yes, the Constitution was violated.
Yes.
Yes, people's civil rights were violated.
Yes.
And yes, it was the 1960 Civil Rights Act
and
that was
which-
violated.
That
Which-
and HAVA.
Which people's
Yeah.
civil
Help me
rights
make
were violated? Who?
All Americans.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for watching No, It's About the Republic show. And stay tuned for Episode 2, Part 2, with special guest Paul Davis.